I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite novellas today. That is another one of my cats. I don't think you have met yet, but he's hanging out with me. But I have a nice stack here of all my favorite novellas that I wanted to talk about. So, I have some Stephen King's. I have mostly horror or thriller novellas. They're kind of my main genres, but I have a couple others too. I'm gonna let the cat out, and then I will tell you about them. My first two, right off the top, are both teeny tiny, and they are both Stephen King novellas. I don't think these originally came out. I don't think almost any of his novellas or short stories originally came out on their own like this. They're all in actual sized books. I will use this one as an example, a normal size book, but it's split up and they're all in there. I have a few other Stephen King novellas that I just got that I haven't read yet, but they've been coming out with his short stories and little novellas in their own copies, and I absolutely love that. So I've been just getting them as I see them at thrift stores, or if there's a sale at Barnes & Noble, I'll get a couple. But I also have a bunch of his books where they're all combined into one book. It's weird. But anyways, I'll start with this one. Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. I think I gave this book a 4-star, and it's really good. I found it in the horror section of Barnes & Noble, but it 100% is not a horror. This is a very well-written drama by Stephen King. He is a man of many genres, and drama is definitely one of them. He's very good at drama. I read this, and then I watched the movie, and I thought the movie was a pretty good adaptation of the book, but this is so small, you can read it in a day. I read it all in one sitting, and it is about, if you haven't heard of it, seen the movie or anything, it is about a man who is imprisoned for a crime that he may or may not have committed. I won't spoil that, but the entire book he is trying to formulate an escape plan, and this book is about him working that out and trying to escape the prison. It feels like a full-length story when you read it, but it is so easy to get through, and it is so funny. I definitely recommend it if you want to get into Stephen King. Now, this one is my favorite Stephen King writing of all time. I've talked about it before, 1922. This book is about a man and his son. It's literally on the blurb on the back, so it's not a spoiler, but they kill the mother/wife, and they are living with their guilt. And I describe it as basically a spiral into madness. It's kind of paranormal. It's very horror. There is a lot of really stomach churning, disgusting scenes. And I adore this book. It is a 5-star. I will never stop saying praises for this book. There is a Netflix adaptation. So good too. I personally think it is the best Stephen King Netflix adaptation in general ever made. But this, I don't think, is a book for beginners in Stephen King, just because of how gruesome a lot of the scenes are. But it is so good, and I definitely recommend it to people who are already into Stephen King. So good. So that's 2 down. Still have a stack, so we're gonna slowly get through this stack. I'll pick one out next. Another story that is entirely a spiral into madness, more specifically a spiral into psychosis. I genuinely think that this book is actually about like a psychotic episode. There is a lot of like mental health trigger warnings in this book. This entire book is basically a trigger warning, but this is one of my favorite books of all time. Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. The whole book is written, it's not like written like a story. It is written as chat logs and emails between two women who are in a sort of BDSM type relationship, but it is probably the worst example of a BDSM type relationship. One of these women is extremely mentally unwell, and the conversation spirals her deeper and deeper into her own psychosis. And it does not end well. I did go through, I didn't like annotate this book, but I did go through and like underline my favorite parts or parts that I thought were important to the story. I feel like I need to read through it at least 2 or 3 more times to really catch stuff. You really, really have to pay attention when you read this, because if you do, you notice like little things that just make it that much more like terrifying and gruesome. This is a horror novel, but it's not the kind of horror that people would generally think of. It's not like blood and gore and violence and all of that. It's just extremely like unsettling, disturbing, like that kind of horror, which is my favorite type. So I had to have this book as soon as I learned of it, and I had to have the original cover because this cover is gorgeous. You cannot tell me that this isn't a beautiful cover because it is so amazingly made. And they don't have this cover anymore. It doesn't exist. This is the old indie publisher that they used when they made this book. They don't use that publisher anymore. They've been traditionally published now. And this story is no longer printed on its own. It is now in a collection of stories, and it does not have this cover anymore. But this cover is so gorgeous, and I absolutely love it. So I searched the ends of the earth for it, and I paid probably way too much for it. But I'm so happy that I have it, and I cannot wait to reread it. I read this in a day. Like, it is so amazing, so beautifully written. I think that Eric LaRocca has such an amazing, amazing ability to show the realities of mental illness. Oh, it was just a beautiful book. I definitely recommend it. Most people probably would not like it, but I think a select few who like very, very much understand the story will love it. I love it. We're going to do another gruesome one, and then I'll kind of get into some less gruesome ones, and we'll end on a very unsettling one. So we'll keep trekking along. Next, in the deeply disturbing category, I have The Laws of the Skies by Gregory Courtois, perhaps. I believe he is a French writer, and I have always heard of this book being described as like, I don't know if you can hear the TV, but my boyfriend is home today. What was I going to say? Oh, it's like a Lord of the Flies, but with very young children. And Lord of the Flies was a very frustrating book for me. I generally enjoyed it, but this one, oh my god. This book perfectly encapsulates like the child mindset and thought process. It is absolutely beautifully written. It is definitely not a story for everybody. There is like death of children, torture of children, like injury to children. Like, it's pretty gruesome, and a lot of the acts carried out in this book are done by another child. I believe they are kindergartners. Let me double check. I forget. 12 children from the grade 1 class. So, like, I guess first grade is better than kindergarten, but a class of 6-year-olds. So these are all 6-year-olds. It is incredibly sad, and it's actually pretty terrifying to think of children thinking in this way and committing these types of acts. It's not for everybody. I definitely don't recommend it to most people, but I really enjoyed it, mostly because of the writing. The writer just absolutely amazingly depicted every scene in the book. It's very in the mind of a child without being childish. And I feel like you can kind of go back to your own childhood and like how you may think in certain situations that were in this book. And it's kind of sickening, really, to think about. But it is a perfect example, I think, of the horror genre. It is a topic that is not something people want to think about. It's disturbing, disgusting, terrifying. I absolutely loved it. It did take me like a couple days to get through it, just because, one, I had to just kind of give myself a break at one point, but I also read it at a time when I was pretty busy. I was in a reading slump when I started this book, and it got me out of that so fast. If you're looking for a like truly disgusting, disturbing horror book, The Laws of the Skies is for you. It even says on the back, Publishers Weekly called it unflinching in its savagery, the nightmarish poetry of this modern Lord of the Flies. So it is very much like a Lord of the Flies, but worse. If you read Lord of the Flies and you wanted it to be more violent and more disturbing, this is the book for you. Now that we're done talking about the very disturbing books, we'll get more into the books that are less disturbing. So let's pick those up. So this next one, I recommend to anybody that loves The Last of Us. I personally don't really like zombie stories. They just don't scare me so much. And they just seem kind of overdone to me most of the time. Like, zombies have been a like horror monster since I was a kid, and I understand why, but I personally just am not that into them. This book, however, is, in my opinion, zombies done right. This is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Absolutely love their writing, by the way. Oh my god. This is like mycology and zombies and all of, like, it's very slightly gothic. It's an absolutely beautiful book. I thought I remembered there being some illustrations, but I think I'm thinking of a different book. But this book, I read through it so fast because I could not get enough of it. I'm waiting for the second book to come out in a paperback form so that I can have them both, but I do have it on my Kindle and I really want to read it soon. I hope that it is just as good as this one. This was a 5-star read for me. Absolutely beautifully written. the thought of some other living thing taking over somebody else's lifeless body is like, ooh, I get like chills thinking about it a little bit. But I think that if you love The Last of Us, you would absolutely love this, because they have a similar premise in the like mycology department and the like fungus taking over another body kind of thing. This is zombies done right, because this is just a little bit real. There are fungi out there that can take over insects' bodies and control their bodies like a zombie. And this is basically that. But if the world and the climate had changed in just the right way for them to take over larger and larger hosts, it's an absolutely chilling thing to think about. And this book does it so right. I have a few other like zombie stories that I do enjoy, like World War Z is okay. I have that book. I've seen the movie. I haven't read the book. I need to read the book. But like the 28 Days Later, oh, love that one. The new movie 28 Years Later is going to be coming out. Cannot wait to see that. But this is one of the few examples of zombies done right. So if you like zombies but want them to be more real or more possible, definitely look in the mycology department, because I truly think that it is possible one day if the climate changes in just the right way. And I really hope that it's more like this book and not like The Last of Us. Because in this one, they could kind of get rid of it. In The Last of Us, it's like, forget about it. But I definitely recommend this one. The cover is gorgeous. The cover to the second book is also gorgeous. But I have a thing for pretty covers, especially on horror books. Amazing horror book. If you want to just get into horror, I recommend this one. The next book is actually in the lit fic department. This is a absolutely gorgeous literary fiction. Carmilla, specifically the newer one that was published, that was edited by Carmen Maria Machado, I believe you say her last name. So this was published again with like footnotes in the story and a nice introduction that talks about like the study of the original writing, Carmilla. So Carmilla was the first ever known vampire story. It came before Dracula. It came before all of the very well-known vampire stories. This was the very first, and not a lot of people actually know about it. This book has the most gorgeous illustrations. They are absolutely beautiful. I just absolutely adore them. I loved having the footnotes that just add a little bit more to the story. I love hearing about the research. This, in my opinion, is what should be done with an English degree or a literature degree. I would love to dedicate my entire career to just deep diving into a writing and learning everything possible about it. If you haven't heard of Carmilla, or you don't really know the Carmilla story, first ever vampire was a woman, and she would kind of worm her way into families and get very, very close to the young women in the family. It was referenced actually a lot in the Nosferatu movie. I absolutely adored the little nuances toward this story. A lot of theories surrounding this story now say that it was not actually about a vampire and like a woman being executed because she was a vampire. It was about two women who were in love with each other. Very, very taboo and unheard of at the time. And she was executed not for being a vampire, but for loving another woman. That is a theory, and that is kind of what the introduction talks about. But the like gothic poetic writing is absolutely gorgeous. I loved being able to read the original story, but with the like additional information. Like these little historical details and the footnotes really added to the story. I absolutely loved it. I think that this is a good introduction to literary fiction if you want to get into literary fiction. So try out Carmilla, specifically this edition. I don't think you'll be disappointed. We have two more. Another lit fic, and then we'll end in a disturbing story. So let's get through our net list. Wow, next lit fic. This next lit fic is another absolutely amazing story. I see this story as a bit of a sci-fi Romeo and Juliet. This is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Matar. I'm not quite sure how to say this name. I'm so sorry. And Max Gladstone. This book is actually very interesting. It is written by two authors at the same time. There is one author that writes as red and another author that writes as blue. And these are two love interests that find each other through time and space. So they are in different time zones, time periods, and different like universes altogether. Like it is absolutely amazing. The writing is beautiful. I've heard a lot of people talk badly about it, but I absolutely loved it. It is in one way or another an enemies to lovers. They are supposed to be fighting a war against each other. They are supposed to be hunting each other down and killing each other. But they find a weird kind of love for each other and actually make their way to each other in the end. I think it is very poetic and very beautiful. If you don't like literary fiction, I don't see this being a book that you would like anyway. I'm very big into literary fiction, so I think this story was kind of perfect for me. I also love the idea of it being written by two separate authors at the same time. It's kind of mind-blowing that they were able to pull that off, but it is so beautiful. It is quite the love story, although it's not a romance, but it is quite the love story. I saw so many similarities to Romeo and Juliet. I haven't heard anybody else really say that, but I definitely see it as a sci-fi Romeo and Juliet. It's absolutely beautiful. The cover is beautiful. Everything about it is amazing. Just if you like lit fic, read this book. I literally read this entire book in a day. because I could not put it down. There is actually a picture of the two authors in the back. Like, that's too cute. I love it. I just love everything about it. Please read this book. I want everybody to love this book just as much as I do. But we have one more left, and it's not a topic that everybody loves either, but it is in my top 5 books. So that one is next. So this next one is in my top 5 books of all time. I absolutely adored this book. This is like the perfect kind of horror for me. I don't like super in-your-face, violent, gory, like jump scare kind of horror. I love the like psychologically unsettling, like just kind of a little bit disturbing, like body horror, all of that type of stuff. Tender is the Flesh is such an amazing example of that. So if you don't know what this story is about, this story is about a disease that is transferred to every animal that could ever, like birds, livestock, dogs, cats, everything. So to combat the meat that we normally eat not being edible anymore, they start farming humans as livestock and slowly breed them into true livestock. And there is a lot of like the people in it trying to justify the cannibalism that they are now participating in. And the main character of the book hates it. Like, he is disgusted by it. And seeing it from his point of view is very, very interesting because he works in the livestock industry, in the human livestock industry. And so you get to see all the kind of gruesome parts of that industry. I definitely think that it is a statement piece about the livestock industry that we have now. I also agree the livestock industry sucks. Still love meat, though. I don't think I could survive without chicken nuggets and ham. Sorry, but I could never be vegan. I'm far too picky of an eater for that. But this book is like if they went to an alternative. So they're not vegan, they're cannibals. And they find ways to justify it. It's actually really, really disturbing, like reading the explanations of how they turned people into livestock. When you read it, they truly do not sound like people. Like, they are mute, they do not speak, they are treated and act like animals. But there are still those very human parts of them that the main character sees. And I think that is what makes this story so disturbing. I absolutely adored this book. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I adored it. So this is in my top 5 books of all time. I think that it is the perfect example of my type of horror and one of my all-time favorite horror reads. So if you are not too disturbed by this subject and this idea, definitely give it a try. She's coming out with a new book at some point, I forget when, but I cannot wait to read it. It's just beautiful. But that was my stack of my favorite novellas. I might be adding some to the list soon, who knows? But that's all I have. So, happy reading. I will see you with a vlog on Friday. See you then.